Well, good evening, everyone. Man, it's wonderful to be able to join you again this evening. And, of course, this is Walk the Talk Wednesday. Ray.
It is.
And we're once again we spend a few minutes here going through Pastor Kenny's message from Sunday. Maybe some different points that we came away with that maybe Pastor Kenny didn't touch on, or some just personal thoughts that we had from this week as we kind of go through the summer. Summer season, I guess we could say we're doing this on Wednesdays and in lieu of having a co-ed Bible study class or some kind of Bible study here at Arnold. So we're thankful that you guys joined us this evening to jump in the Word with us and kind of look through and kind of investigate a few things. And of course, this past weekend was Father's Day, Ray, and so. How was your Father's Day?
It was great. We were down on the lake, and the grandkids were all there, and the kids, and it was a really good time.
Awesome.
I love getting the cards that the kids write and they sign. And it was really cool. We just it was a great day.
So it almost kind of like a grandfather's Father's Day, because it was. How many grandkids do you have?
I have 9, so it was.
You have 9.
It was good. Yeah,
you have 9.
Good.
Well, I have none, and I'm fine with that right now. I look forward to someday having some grandkids, though.
That'll be good. I'm looking forward to it too.
All right, Ray. So anyway, of course, like we said, this last weekend was Father's Day, and Pastor Kenny kind of really hit on that.
Really did.
This last Sunday. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we probably won't hit near as much as he did in the sermon this past Sunday. And of course, Pastor Kenny got excited. We talked about it before we came on today, and so we might get excited too.
And rightly so.
Rightly so. We are to be serving. And so that's what a lot of this lesson really was about. This sermon was about, I say lesson. This sermon was about this past Sunday. And, Ray, I kind of think about it, and I brought one of the signs that me and Patty have in our house. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And that's from that verse there that we're going to discuss here from Joshua 24, 14 through 15. And I really think that probably most houses have that sign. There's a lot of them.
We have a stencil.
Do you have
Paula made it real nice and big on there so I could read it, be reminded every day when I come down to the family room.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of us have this sign, and so it is a study reminder for us that the people basically that live in this household, we're gonna serve the Lord, and that's kind of our, I would say, clarion call. That's what we believe that we're called to do. We're called to do is serve the Lord, and so whereas what Joshua did here, what he said, even though that sign is really true to the context, it's a little bit different, because Joshua basically was talking about his whole family, which would be, because he would be considered the patriarch of his family. And so anyway, that's what he was talking about.
That would be like my Father's Day with all the grandkids.
Exactly.
And all the in-laws. And all, I mean, it was, it would be that whole clan,
exactly,
having them all together. So
exactly. So that's what we're going to just kind of talk about this evening, about just kind of that whole thought of what it means to serve the Lord. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to look at a couple of the verses, and maybe some other verses that Pastor Kenny didn't specifically camp on very much, but anyway, so let's just kind of get into it. God first made the covenant with Israel, and that goes back to Exodus 19, 1 through 25. He made that covenant with them, Ray, on Mount Sinai. He explained to them what it required and what the people would even have to do. And so as I was studying through this, thinking about this, Ray, I came across this writing here, and I thought it really spoke to it well. It was a covenant. It was common. This type of covenant was common even up until the 1500s in like vassals.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'll come back and explain all this. Vassals and suzerain. And basically what a suzerain was a king or a person of high regard. He had like a manor, or he had in the 1500s, he would have had a castle. And so then the vassals would have been those that were serving him.
Under him,
so,
yes.
So that were under him. And so at any time, if they revolted against him or whatever, he could put down punishment. And so that's kind of what God was saying to them here. And we got to remember, God had extreme grace and mercy on them when he brought them out of Egypt. We got to this point where Moses goes up on the mountain and everything, and, God talks about, hey, I took care of you, like I put you on eagle's wings, and I brought you to this place, and all the different things. He talked about how he would lead them through the wilderness. He talked about how he was going to feed them. I mean, you got to think about it. Here is we roughly believe, Ray, I think, 2 million we think came out of Egypt at that time. How are you in the wilderness going to feed 2 million people?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about that. Where
Yeah.
are you going to find water in the
the
desert?
water and bread to eat or meat or whatever. What are you going to do? And God could have said, hey, well, you're going to have to find whatever. No, he provided those things. We also know that the clothes and everything that they had on never withered away.
sandals didn't wear out? Can you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, how that doesn't happen today.
No.
And so
Now, those socks he had, they could have wore out.
those socks, yes. Maybe those socks was from there. Well, I don't know. I don't think so. But
I thought it was
but
pretty
they
funny.
were some weird looking
Yeah, it was
socks.
like,
But anyway,
alrighty.
but anyway, so God had tremendous grace and mercy upon them. And of course, they're here. They are. They're in the wilderness, and so everything went fine, right, Ray? They did exactly what God asked them to do, and they didn't murmur, they didn't whine. They worshiped just like they were supposed to, right, Ray?
Yeah, right. It's that part always gets me in the Bible, because we think so many times that God says he's showing grace and mercy, but and he makes a covenant with us, but there's a covenant going the other way.
Yeah.
And so many times we forget that covenant. We want to take God's covenant that you did all this, but we forget about the covenant that we have.
Exactly.
And so and that was the big part of it, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
through all those times.
and really,
And now.
yeah, and now that's part, yeah. And so anyway, Moses, as we just said, Moses' generation failed miserably. Not only did they make the golden calf, as one time Moses was up on the mountain, that was Exodus 32. But they ultimately refused to enter the promised land, and they, by not trusting in God to protect them and honor his part of the covenant with him in Numbers 14. As a result, that generation died in the wilderness. Well, we get to this point, and now is when, I mean, we've heard Joshua's name before now, but we get to this point, and really Joshua and Caleb are the ones who really shine out, because at this point they're going, well, God is sitting there telling you, hey, this is what I have for you. Go in and subdue it. But yet they go, well, I don't know. We've seen some of those people in there, and they look mighty big, and so we need to send in some spies. And of course, here's the thing, the grace of God to go, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Send in some spies. Well, he sends them in. Of course, Joshua and Caleb come back. Oh, yeah, we can
do it.
We can handle this. And
Well, I think they kind of look at what God has done already. Look at it.
Exactly.
I mean, he's parted the waters for them. He's fed them. He's made water come out of rocks. I mean, he's done all these things to prove that he is God.
Right.
And then they look at some big people and,
Right.
oh, that might be too much. So it's like, I haven't failed you yet.
Yeah. And that back from Kenny's message, even on Sunday, we need to remember those things. And I don't know how, and I think I've talked about it several times in here, Ray, but how many times do we need to sit down and just go, okay, God worked through this situation here this way. That doesn't mean he'll work through whatever you're going through right now, but you journal it, you put it down, you put it on some 3x5 cards, and you put it in the center of your table, and you go, okay, God worked through this, and it was much better than I could have ever done. So I need to, because of that, I need to remain faithful to him. And that's what Joshua and Caleb, like you said, that's where they were at.
They trusted him. They followed him.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. So after 40 years of wandering around, a new generation had grown up and was ready to enter the promised land, because what happened? They said, oh, we can't do it. So what did God say? All right, 40 years.
All of you are going to, and every one of them passed away except for Joshua and Caleb. They're the only two that went in.
Exactly.
And Moses didn't even go. He got to see it from the mountaintop. But, it's like, wow.
The rock, he smote the rock. He hit the rock So anyway, that's a whole nother story.
That's all,
So that'll
be part 2. Mark.
That'll be part 2, yeah. So anyway, so the book of Deuteronomy and Moses retelling of Israel's story and a summary of the law for a new generation, most of whom at the present of Exodus from Egypt to the giving of law at Sinai, or the refusal to enter the promised land. Moses called on Israel to follow the Lord. He says that they can choose between life and prosperity or death and destruction. And so that's when we get to the end of really kind of Moses's life. And so he's kind of given the final calls, or the final push or encouragement, and saying, okay, guys, it's ready for you. It's time for you to go in. My time is near. Joshua's going to lead you into that. And so here we go. So after Moses dies, Joshua leads the people in conquest and gets them established in the land. Then as his death approaches, we get to the section of the verses that we read this Sunday. And Joshua calls all Israel together once again to challenge them to renew the covenant and confirm their willingness to serve the Lord. Like Moses, he offers them a choice. There's always that free moral choice that God offers us. They must serve the Lord or serve the gods of the surrounding nations. It would never have occurred to them that they could serve no gods. Everyone served a god of some sort. It was a matter of which one.
It gets me because, like they said, we don't have any intention on serving another god, but we can't even imagine serving another god. Even thinking about myself and what Pastor Kenny was saying, how many times do I serve little gods? Whenever I'm doing things in my life, I don't even realize that I am. But when I go back and I look, what am I thinking about? Where do I find pleasure? Where does my mind spend all of its time? And sometimes we can get to points where we hardly ever think about God. It's always what's going on at work, what's going on with the family, how am I going to get this or that, So how easy that is.
And it doesn't matter what your vocation is.
Not at all.
It can happen as much to a pastor as it can happen to someone who's doing plumbing. There's no respecters of that. And it is something that you have to be careful with. And I think, once again, the whole thing of spiritual disciplines of reading your Bible, praying, all those things that we go, okay, I know I need to do that. And we sit there and we say, I know I need to do that. And I know, but we have to do that, because it's really through our relationship with Christ that we're going to see which ways to go and which ways not to go. We're going to see answer to prayer. If we're not praying for different things, is God really going to answer that prayer? So
maybe not the way we want.
Maybe not the way we want. You're exactly right. So we need to be doing those things that we're not necessarily doing, and we need to be consistent at it. The same, you've probably heard it, Ray. Would we treat God as we would treat our wives? No.
Yeah.
No. We talk to our wives every day. We can't do that with God. We have to talk to him every day.
Absolutely.
We have to do that relationship. And we've talked about this before, Ray. When you're talking about marriages, I always look at it in a pyramid form.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Number one is your relationship with God, which is right at the very pinnacle. Number two is your relationship with your wife. Number three is your relationship with your kids. Four, and then on down, family, everything else kind of filters out from there. But those two top ones are incredibly important. And if you get your wife above God, or if you get your kids above God, you're asking for problems.
Yeah.
And
I think it's neat just how the pyramid works, because the closer that we draw to God together, the closer we get together too. And that's the truth.
Exactly.
So many times we're so sidetracked on trying to fix each other and getting each other to understand, and that we miss the whole thing. So
you're exactly right, Ray. Yeah. So either way, on how talking about the different things or the gods, small g, that we might serve, Joshua said they will reap the consequences of their choice. Joshua expresses his personal commitment to the Lord in Joshua 24:14 through 15. I'm going to read that right now. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away your gods of your ancestors and your gods your ancestors worshipped beyond the Euphrates River and Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as far as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And I don't know that Kenny went into this next verse, which as I read, I was like, so it was a clarion call, or a extreme encouragement to them, even as Kenny was saying. I mean, he stopped before he actually got there. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I think that's so true, because as the people expressed here in the next verse, they said, then the people answered, far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. So that tells me they go, okay, we're going to serve the God who's taking care of us. It does kind of concern me a little bit that even as the first generation, as I listen to this verse, and as I study this verse in the past, I think I've studied through this a little bit on this, that even that some of these that saw their ancestors go through, apparently there was gods. They were still worshiping some of those other gods, even at this point, even after seeing what Moses said and what Joshua said and Caleb said. So that was a little disheartening. But hey, it's easy for us to sit and point fingers at people in the Bible today, isn't it, Ray?
it is, yeah. The more I start pointing fingers, the more they're pointing back at me.
Exactly. I feel
I'm no
the
different.
same way. I feel the same way. It's easy for me to say. So Joshua is head of the house, which probably meant to the whole extended family. Remember, we talked about that in the beginning, because he was the patriarch, proclaimed that he and his family would serve the Lord. In this context, he could guarantee that while he was alive, he would not allow the worship of any other deity by anyone in his extended family. Obviously, he couldn't do that forever, because he can share all those things. We can do all those things, but in the end, it is a choice. It's even a choice for our kids. We can try to force them to do stuff, but that's never going to work, Ray. They have to own their faith. They can't go into heaven on our coattails or our parents' coattails or whatever. It has to be that established relationship. Or once they get out, let's say as adults or whatever, because they never owned it, it's not important to them, and they don't bring the next generation up. So it is incredibly important that we as fathers in this aspect, because we were talking about fathers this weekend, and families, we bring our kids up to be serving the Lord.
Yeah. I think, it's just interesting that we are going to choose something. We're going to worship something because that's the way God wired us.
Right.
So whether we intend to serve God, the true living God, or whether we let the little gods come in, we're going to serve something because that's the way we're wired. Exactly. Whether we intend it or whether we don't, we are going to worship some God,
Yep. And so once again, he had, Joshua had to be very passionate as we've read through 16, verse 16. Remember the slide from Sunday. What does your life prove about you? What do people see during the week? Not what do people see on Sunday. Man, just remove that from your whole thought. Just remove Sunday. What do people see out of you and hear out of you Monday through, let's say, Saturday? Monday through Saturday. What do people see and hear from? That tells you where your priorities really lie.
What about when we're gone, Mark? I think about that many times. When I'm gone, what are people gonna remember me for?
Yeah.
And the Bible talks about you speak from the grave.
Yeah.
What is your life? And I think that's why it's so important for us to serve God the way we should, to be remembered for that.
What are they gonna say about me? Like at a funeral, just today, Ray, you're at a funeral. And so, what is going to be said? What are people going to say? Oh yeah, he was a great guy. Or are they going to say, man, he loved Jesus and lived for Jesus every day? That's what I hope they say.
Yeah.
But I hope that I do that, and I hope that I exhibit that outside of Sunday.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting because Joshua was 110 years old, and he's saying, my time on the wall is coming to an end.
Yeah.
And he's fired up. It's like, man, I have served the Lord wholeheartedly. I've given him everything, and my family, my household will continue to serve the Lord. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
The choice is yours, and you will make it. Your time on the wall. What are you going to do with it?
Well, and I remember, Joshua and Caleb. Caleb was, they got to that point. They got ready to go into the promised land. And so, hey, where do you want to go at, Caleb? And Caleb goes, I want to go in the high country. I want to go in the hardest area.
Yeah.
And so that tells me a lot about Joshua and Caleb and their tenacity.
Yeah.
Their love of the Lord and understanding who he was.
His provisions and who he is. Yeah, it's just, man, it's
exactly.
Man, they talk about faith. They faith and they lived that faith. They trusted it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Wow.
And so as we wrap up, when a Christian father posts a wall, or Christian family posts this wall hanging saying, as far as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord in their home. They are proclaiming very much the same thing that Joshua did, although he is probably thinking more of immediate family. Once again, the family that's under his roof. Christian parents have a responsibility to make sure what goes on in the home is honoring to God and to exclude activities or things or even coarse talking, whatever, that is not honoring to God.
Yeah.
Christian parents would do well to remember, however, that they can only control at most the external actions and activities that take place at home, and with much less authority than would have been allowed in Joshua and as an ancient patriarch. They are like Joshua in that they are powerless to control how their children feel, believe, what their children feel, believe, desire. It is a choice. It is that choice, Ray. And that will require loving communication of faith to their children and ultimately a work of the Spirit of God to change their hearts. I think time and time again, going back to Deuteronomy 6, of, I think it's 5, 6, and 7, and kind of just my interpretation of that is, in the highways and byways of life, be showing your children God. Every day you leave the front door of your house, even inside of your house, there's different things you can go, see how God's been faithful. See how God made the butterfly. Look at the rain that's coming down. Look at this storm, how it punishes us even with rain, even for the grass, makes the grass. There is tons of things that we can talk about as we see in God's creation, of how we know there is a God and how he has grace and mercy upon us.
It's many people, when they see us in our life, when our kids see us in our life, they learn by our actions how we live, not just by what we say, because so many times we talk the talk, but we don't walk,
We don't walk.
So to be able to learn by what you see, to be taught and then to see, man, that is what really teaches. You can
a lot of times there is more caught by what they see than what they are taught.
That's exactly it. You said a lot of things, but they didn't mean anything because you didn't follow it.
You didn't follow it.
So that's what following God is.
It kind of reminds me of when Jesus talked to the Pharisees, and I
oh yeah, absolutely.
Woe to me, woe to you, you whitewashed tombs.
Yeah.
All, you give all the right answers, but boy, you're not living it.
It's all the external things.
All
you
the
say all the right
external
things, but man, inside you're
full of dead
dead.
man's bones.
You're just
dead.
rotten. And it's
Exactly.
like, oh man.
Exactly. All righty, Ray, we need to wrap up. And so, man, this has been a great sermon. This one here, kind of sharing with you a little bit more. This next Sunday, we will wrap up the Close Knit series. Pastor Jason is going to be preaching this Sunday. Please keep Pastor Kenny and Donna in your prayers as they're away on vacation, and just lift them up. And so this next Wednesday, we will be talking about Pastor Jason's message, which is going to come from Psalm 127, 3-5. And as you look at that, you're going to see that it talks about the quiver full of arrows. Blessed is the man who has a has a quiver full of arrows. And so Pastor Jason's going to be preaching on that. And so that will wrap up our Close Knit series. And of course, we have 4th of July coming up here shortly. Keep in mind that Sunday night of 4th of July at 8:30, or is it 9:30 p.m., we're going to have fireworks here. During that time of fireworks, there is going to be, the gospel is going to be shared, and it would be a great time to bring your friends up with you. Our parking lot's going to be open. It'll be corded off where you can't get to because of the fireworks or stuff like that. But Pastor Kenny is going to be on 89.9 and giving the gospel message on there, and there'll be music on that to go along with the fireworks. So we're excited about it. It's another tool to get the gospel out.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us this evening, and we shall see you next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.